Kicking off Halloween season with a bang. Movie Chumps, episode 214, Nosferatu. Let's get after it.
Come to me. Come to me. Hear my call. Come to me. Professor, my dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us or from beyond?
He is coming.
He is coming.
He is coming to us.
He's coming.
Who is coming to my child? We are here encountering the vampire. Nosferatu.
A visual feast that's frightening as hell, and the fourth film in a row for director Robert Eggers that's dark, haunting, cinematically fascinating to watch unfold, and another overall stick in the win column. Cory Cook, you still consider this Eggers' best film?
No, I think his best film and my favorite film is The Northman all
Nice.
around. But
Just wanted to check your sanity on that one.
this one is a visual feast. I love everything he does for the most part.
Hey, it's Movie Chumps. He's Cory Cook. I'm Luke Mayo. We salute the triumphant return of friend of the podcast, Corey Kesselring, a.k.a. Corey number 2, a.k.a. Cory K. Honored to have you back.
I am always honored to be here to discuss whatever film you guys are forcing me to watch or rewatch.
I was going to say, at some point, are you offended when Corey's like, hey, man, we're doing Showgirls. Do you want to come on? And you're like, really? Like, you didn't ask me on for Gone with the Wind or like Casablanca or Citizen Kane, but we offer you to come on for like...
Who comes to From Town again, Corey? Come on.
It's like Naked Leprechaun 7. Hey, Corey, you want to come on for the pod?
Oh God, Night of the Lepers.
Which made a cameo in The Matrix.
It did, actually.
Speaking of cameos, how about that mustache from Count Orlok in Nosferatu?
I gotta say, props to for Eggers and them deciding to have a vampire with a mustache, because you just don't see that much.
Especially with this many sex scenes or implied sexual
Yes.
scenes. Like,
Yeah,
literally they're just saying, hello, come for the ride. Like,
exactly. Mustache ride time.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if it's going to turn into like a quasi-70s porn, we might as well include a mustache. I thought I read somewhere, though, that actually tracks with either, well, I was going to say either the 22 film, but that's not true. Maybe the book, maybe the original book, he had a mustache?
I don't believe so. Oh, although I remember from the Dracula film, what's it?
Bram Stoker's there?
Bram Stoker's Dracula, he did have a mustache, so I don't know.
And folks, if you're watching us on
Glad
YouTube,
to.
you might have just seen Cory Cook pump his fist. I think I know why. Yanks squeeze out a win here,
Yes.
4-3. So a little line in the sand.
Game 3 tomorrow.
Die another day.
Yep.
Hey, coming up later in headlines, Leo DiCaprio's next project, the big name added to the Highlander reboot, and the AI actress. I'll be honest, it's kind of pissing me off. We're going to get to all those, but first we've got 5 questions. Cory K will have the honors, per tradition.
as always, I'm coming here, bringing the heat, trying to stay on topic. So let's start off with a fun one. In 2024's Nosferatu, we deal with an eccentric vampire who is deciding to find his way home and to break up a marriage. Now, speaking of eccentric vampires, who do you got in a fight? Count Chocula or the Count from Sesame Street?
Oh, dude. Okay, so here's my answer to this one. I'm saying it is a Rocky 1 situation where it goes the distance, but the Count from Sesame Street uh, wins the decision.
Look, you can't go against any kind of Muppet or Sesame Street character, right? Like you can't. And countless mornings with the other guy at the breakfast table, but I just don't think he's got the reps. I don't think he's got the resume. I'm going the Count from Sesame Street.
Although if Count Chocula went down, I feel like the Count from Sesame Street would keep trying to interfere with the ref and be like 1, 2 to get to a 10 count.
Like, no, he's out. He's out.
See, I got to go against both of you. I got to say it's Count Chocula in this one. All right. You don't get to be a cereal mascot for that long without some skeletons in your closet. So I guarantee you this man has killed before. He will kill again. And he's with all that sugar, he's got the energy to do it.
I think that's the better argument. He's got some bodies buried somewhere.
Did you ever see that SNL skit with Pete Davidson when he dressed up as Count Chocula?
Yes, Dave Chappelle was just like, look at Pete Davidson's lips.
He terrifyingly looked exactly like Count Chocula. It was crazy.
And he's an interesting looking dude anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Can you name another horror film that you'd love to see remade in this day and age?
I honestly think that even though it's been done 3 times with a Vincent Price movie, a Charlton Heston movie, and a Will Smith movie, I honestly don't think Richard Matheson's original novel, I Am Legend, has gotten a actual true clear adaptation that was to the soul of the book. So I actually would love to see an I Am Legend remake with Guillermo del Toro as the director. I think that would be kick-ass.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go with, I always liked it as a kid. Scared the heck out of me as a kid. I haven't seen it in like probably 30 years, but I enjoyed it then, and maybe it's got some room for a remake here. Fright Night from 1985. You ever see that one?
Bits and pieces, and I saw the remake too.
So. Oh, there was a remake.
Yeah, the remake actually was not that bad.
Okay.
David Tennant in it too.
Yeah, I went into that one expecting it. I went to see that one in the theaters with my little brother, and we both expected just to tear it apart the entire time. But we walked out going, you know what? That was actually it's a fairly enjoyable film. They change a few things, but they do it for the right reasons, and it makes sense with the plot. I do recommend that film to get ahead of recommendations.
With the one with Colin Farrell, I'm looking online now. Oh,
yeah, Colin Farrell does a great job.
I walked out of that and I went, that was not a waste of my time. And I feel like that is like damning praise, but it really isn't.
I'm surprised I missed that one. Okay, shame on me.
So for my answer, I think we're well overdue for a new Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Thank you.
But let's make it kind of like the 90s Anaconda film where you really don't get to see the monster until much later in the film. And it's this huge, big reveal. I think that nowadays you could really set the suspense. Jump scares are obviously like the thing. It would work for people of that. But I think that there's also, you could add more lore to the creature that also the creature just does not get enough love. And when we're talking the big monsters. So Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Good choice.
You'd go Jaws direction kind of with that, like hiding the creature towards like final.
Yeah.
Third.
Think
Good
like
idea.
Jaws mixed with Jungle Cruise.
Okay. You got my money.
No, that's okay. Take my money.
Get on it, Hollywood. And speaking of getting on things, we're in the Halloween season. It is October 1st. What are your Halloween plans this year?
Well, this is a weird Halloween plan, but I actually took that weekend is my birthday, November 3rd on that Monday, and then Halloween's obviously on a Friday. I took that Friday and that Monday off. I'm actually going on October 31st to go see Back to the Future in IMAX. So that's my Halloween plan. And I'm not sure actually what the boy is doing because he's not sure if he's going to go trick-or-treating or not because he's hoping to get invited to this Halloween party. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, no real plans.
I like this question. I think I'll probably just be handing out candy.
Razor blades?
That night? That was last year. I'm done with that. Something new this year. Candy apples. Yeah, the girls are heading, I believe, trick or treating. We got this one street that is bananas in Irondequoit that like attracts like every kid. It's like the Pied Piper of Halloween kids, of Halloween streets. There's like kids from all over. So it kind of soaks up all the trick or treaters in like surrounding neighborhoods. So like our neighborhood is like usually really quiet, which stinks for passing out candy because I actually kind of get a kick out of seeing the costumes. So it might be kind of a slow night here at the Mayo household.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is for me here. But for my Halloween, so my wife is going to be having surgery coming up later this month. Thankfully, hopefully it'll be the last step with cancer recovery. And we don't really get trick-or-treaters on our street anyways, so we'll probably just sit inside, eat pizza, and watch like Halloween specials or whatever. I mean, that's just low-key as always, but yeah,
As it should be. I feel like it's a good low-key holiday.
Yeah, I think it's a one where like, you know what, it's good workout when, you know, the doorbell rings and you got to get up, you got to walk over and everything like that. Make sure you get your steps in. You know, it's a good holiday for everyone.
You do the man grunt when you get off the couch, like.
I always find it interesting when like people are of our age, you know, like getting into their mid-30s, into their 40s, are like still gung-ho Halloween, like will dress up full board, go to parties, all this other stuff. And it's like, I'm not going to yuck anybody else's yum, but man, it just seems like a lot of effort, says the guy who's almost 47.
No, I'm the same way. Like I always like seeing what people are posting on Facebook the next day. Like, hey, here's our party from last night. I'm like, dang, man, no quiet night in, huh? Like just going balls out.
You know what's going to be everywhere this Halloween for costumes is fucking the K-pop Demon Hunters is going to be fucking everywhere, I think.
Yeah, I wondered what like the hot costume was going to be.
I'm thinking that's what it's going to be. That and Ice Agent.
Just a guy with a mask.
Really,
a
not
schmuck with a mask.
Not chicken jockey?
No. Well, maybe.
All right. Question 4. As someone who did not watch a lot of horror films growing up or throughout his 34 years of life, I have taken to this month to just going through a ton of horror films that I have never seen before. So, of course, I always have a few picked out as like I have to watch these this year on my watch list. What is a horror film on your watch list this year that you haven't seen yet?
Ooh.
Easiest question for me, really hard for both of you. So,
and for me, I hesitate not because I've seen so many of them, but I think I've reached that point where I'm going to sound like a real big prude here, but I feel like some of the horror over the last like 20 years has gotten so gruesome to the point where some of them are just hard to watch. Like I know we've kind of complained about some of the Saws, where like I saw the one and somebody was literally cutting their arm, it looked like, the first like 20 seconds. I'm like, all right, that's too much for me. Not sure if I can handle that. I like more of a plot-driven one, or if it's got a really interesting narrative hook to it. Those are the ones where I'm like, oh, I'm in. But in that sense, I think I'd like to rewatch some of like the old 80s and 90s ones. Even like Scream and the I Know What You Did Last Summers, because I really enjoyed those back in the day.
The new Screams are pretty good. If you haven't seen those,
and the new ones I haven't seen. So there you go. There's my answer.
Real fun.
For myself, honestly, the one that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope to God that it's supposed to be in select theaters, but I hope to God that they do release it around here, is I am fucking on board for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein film that's coming out. If they dropped the second trailer today, and the first trailer was all from Victor's perspective. The second trailer is all from the creature's perspective. And it just looks like a sumptuous feast. I mean, this looks like the movie Del Toro was born to make. I mean, he's been trying to make this thing in some capacity or other for going on, I think, a decade and a half now. So I'm really pumped to see that one. I'm hoping it releases in theaters because I really want to see it in the theater.
Right on, right on. I love that idea for a trailer, by the way. As you know, if I'm interested in a film, I don't watch the trailer, so love hearing they're being artistic with that. For me, Halloween 3 is on my watch list this year. Last year I watched the original Halloween for the first time ever. Ended up covering it on my podcast. That Sounds Terrible. Go on. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Haven't seen the second one yet. I'll probably knock that one out, but I know that 3 you don't have to watch
Correct.
before
Completely
any
different.
of them, and the idea behind it has something that's always really intrigued me. So I think this probably in my top 3 I have to watch this year.
I want a fucking phone call when you're done. Because I can't remember if I won't I can't remember if I ever send you the letterbox review of that, the funny one.
No, I don't
When
think so.
okay, I won't send it to you, but when you see the movie, I will send it to you. It is one of the funny. Look, I read it on air. It is when we did Halloween 3 season of the witch. It is one of the funniest things I've ever read. But you're not going to fully appreciate it until you see the movie.
It just hit me that that's the season of the witch one. In my mind,
Yeah.
it's Halloween 2. Corey,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a freaking ball with that.
Happy Halloween.
I
I'm
can't.
very excited.
I can't wait to hear your reaction to that movie. I also can't wait to hear your reaction to our goofball pod on that movie.
I always do wait until I've seen the film before listening to any of the episodes of the films that you guys have covered. So
Yeah.
If memory
Smart
serves,
man.
that was a fun one. Not
that
that
was
the
a
other ones aren't
blast.
fun, but we were like
We-
laughing our butt off, weren't we?
Dude, that movie was ridiculous.
You're in for a treat.
all right. And speaking of a treat, I hope we're all expecting a treat this year because we're all football fans. And I've got to ask the question that's on our minds. Is this the year the Bills finally get back to the Super Bowl? What do you think?
I honestly say yes, because I know we're only a quarter of the way through the season right now, but I'm looking around and it doesn't look so great. Like I obviously the Ravens are 1-3. The chances of them making the playoffs are extremely small now if you look at things historically. KC's starting to click, but I'm really not super convinced. And I didn't. What's it? The Chargers don't look as good as I thought they were going to be. So honestly, in my mind, it's the Bills to lose. It's there for the taking for them to at least get to the Super Bowl this year. I think.
I'm with Corey. I say we get there. Of course, I want to win. But yeah, I'm looking around and I'm not super impressed by what I've seen, even though it is still early. But even with the Bills, we've got a bunch of folks out too with injuries. So we're still kind of like, getting our sea legs as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in the same boat here, just like thinking I think this is the year that we're going to get back to the Super Bowl. I've never been someone who's been like, "Yep, we're going to make it." I think last year was the first time ever in my life I went, "No, I think we're actually going to make it to the Super Bowl." Got very close, obviously didn't get there, but I think that given how the other teams have been playing this year, the other injuries everyone else is doing, the people who generally we have had the biggest struggles with are floundering against people that they shouldn't be floundering. KC, the Ravens, for instance. Yes, we're getting very close games we're winning here, but we're still winning. And at the end of the day, that's what counts. So I'm as always, very excited about this year, but I absolutely think we're going to get to the Super Bowl.
There
finally.
honestly is only one team right now that I don't know if the Bills could beat that team in the NFL right now, and that's the Eagles. If the Eagles stay healthy, they're easily going to get back to the Super Bowl at the very least. But
We still have
anybody
the
else,
X factor in
I feel
Josh
like the
Allen,
Bills,
though.
we do, but that's the only team that honestly scares me in the NFL right now. Every other team I think is beatable. Like even like the Packers losing to the Browns like blew my mind, and I thought they were going to be world beaters. So who knows?
Glad I didn't put money on it.
A delightful and sexy 5, Corey K. And now it is time for headlines.
Let's go to press.
2 decades later, The Simpsons movie is getting a sequel. Corey, you've got some details. It's a long time coming.
Yeah, it's kind of paying off on a joke that happened with the original Simpsons movie back in 2007, where they said, yeah, we'll have like another one in 20 years. Well, literally on July 23rd, 2027, almost 20 years to the month, because I think the first one released in August, we're going to have another Simpsons film that's coming out. Actually, the one who was tipped me off of this was our own Cory K, who got it off. I think it was Instagram. Great poster. It just basically it's Homer reaching for a donut, and it says Homer's coming back for seconds.
Nice.
So I'm I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm really excited. The original Simpsons film to me still holds up. It's pretty damn funny. I would actually would have thought that this would have been like the capper, right? That this like ends everything all. But I was informed also by Cory K, uber Simpsons fan, that they are renewed through 2029. So,
Ooh, Cory K, you got to be pretty pumped about this sequel.
So I don't remember a lot about high school for
2
reasons,
decades
but,
later, the Simpsons
one of the
movie is
things I
getting a
do
sequel.
remember-
Corey, you've got some details.
Okay,
It's a long
okay,
time
all right,
coming.
all right, fine,
yeah,
all right, fine. Quick story.
It's kind of
It was
paying
for
off on a
drugs,
joke that happened with the
prescribed
original
drugs.
Simpsons movie
Don't give
back
your
in
children adult dosages of
2007, where they said,
Adderall,
yeah, we'll
alright?
have like
Because
another
it
one
just
in
messes
20
with
years.
their
Well,
brain.
literally
But,
on July 23rd,
during the summer, I really
2027,
wouldn't take it much. Like,
almost
remember my summers
20
fairly
years to the month, because I think the
decently,
first one released
I
in August.
remember
We're going to
all of
have
my friends
another
every Friday we'd
Simpsons
hang out in the
film
park
that's
during
coming
the
out.
summer, right?
Actually, the one who was tipped me off of
And
this
it was
was
the
our
day
own
the
Cory K, who
Simpsons
got it
movie
off.
was
I think it was
releasing, and I
Instagram.
looked at everyone and I
Great
said, guys,
poster.
I really
It just
want to go to
basically it's
this.
Homer
I will
reaching for a
buy
donut, and it says
everybody's
Homer's
like
coming back for
movie ticket
tickets.
to go in. There's like
Nice.
12 of
So
us, and I had a job over the summer.
I'm not surprised by this
Nothing
at
else
all.
to pay
I'm
for
really
'cause I didn't have a
excited.
cell phone or a
The
car or
original
anything,
Simpsons
and I'm
film
like,
to
I
me
will
still
pay
holds
for
up. It's
all of
pretty
us to
damn
go
funny.
right now.
I would
And we
actually
got somehow we
would
got
have
there
thought
into a showing
that this would have
all
been like the
10 or
capper,
12
right? That
of
this like
us,
ends
and it
everything
was
all.
one of
But
the
I was
best
informed
theater
also by Cory
experiences
K,
of my
uber
life.
Simpsons
I
fan,
am so
that they
looking
are
forward to
renewed
the
through
sequel. I
2029.
will be there
So,
opening night. I
Ooh,
don't
Cory
care
K, you got to be
what I
pretty
have to
pumped
do to
about
make
this
it
sequel.
happen. I have to be there.
I don't
just
remember
have to
a
keep
lot
this
about
alive.
high school
I'm so
for
excited for
reasons,
this. Even,
but
one of the things I
think
do
it's going to be
remember.
as good as the first one.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't
all right,
know.
all right, fine, all right, fine.
And
Quick
I think
story.
that's just
It was
because
for
of the writing
drugs,
of The Simpsons.
prescribed
Even
drugs.
nowadays, it's
Don't
kind
give
of
your
like,
children
I
adult
watch it
dosages of
nowadays.
Adderall.
It's very hit or
alright?
miss.
Because it just messes
Usually,
with their
it's
brain.
kind of a miss,
But
I
during
during
the
the
summer,
ton
I
of
really wouldn't
bad
take it
episodes,
much.
it's
Like,
more of
remember
like,
my
this is
summers
just
fairly
okay.
decently.
I think
And
for the film,
I
they're really gonna go the
remember
distance for it.
all of my
the
friends
thing
every
that I
Friday
think
we'd
that
hang out
Corey
in the
and I
park during the
discussed
summer,
before
right?
about
Out
The
in Henrietta
Simpsons in
Town
terms of
Park.
quality is like
And it
the
was the
stories
day
aren't
the
the best
Simpsons
anymore, but I
movie
still
was
still
releasing,
think the
and I
jokes
looked at everyone and I
land pretty
said, guys,
well.
I really want to
Because
go
you
to
have
this. I will
writers
buy
that, if you
everybody's
look around, have a lot of
movie
material
ticket
to
to
pull
go in.
from
There was like 12 of us, and
at
I
this
had a
point.
job over the
So
summer.
yeah,
Nothing else to pay for because I didn't have a cell phone or a car or anything. And I'm like, I will pay for all of us to go right now. And we got there into a showing, all like 10 or 12 of us. And it was one of the best theater experiences of my life. I am so looking forward to the sequel. I will be there opening night. I don't care what I have to do to make it happen. I have to be there. Like, I just have to keep this alive. I'm so excited for this. Even I think it's going to be as good as the first one? I don't know. And I think that's just because the writing of The Simpsons, even nowadays, it's kind of like I watch it nowadays. It's very hit or miss. Usually it's kind of a miss, but I wouldn't say there's a ton of bad episodes. It's more of like, this is just okay. I think for the film, they're really going to go the distance for it.
the thing that I think that Corey and I discussed before about The Simpsons in terms of quality is like the stories aren't the best anymore, but I still think the jokes land pretty well, because you have writers that, if you look around, have a lot of material to pull from at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I just started actually. Well, I didn't. I watched the first episode. Is the first episode the Halloween episode?
First
The
episode's the
Simpsons?
Christmas episode.
Or the Christmas episode? Okay.
Santa's Little Helper, yeah.
Yeah, so I put it on my little checklist. I'm like, you know what? I need a little break from, what's going on in the world in reality. I was like, what better way to do it is just to do a Simpsons watch from episode 1 all the way through, which will probably take the next 17 years of my life. But they're all on Disney Plus, and I'm excited to kind of tackle that. All right, this will make your blood boil. Have you heard of the actress Tilly Norwood? If not, you will, because she doesn't exist. She's AI. Major backlash so far here, Corey's.
Yeah, this is some horseshit. If somebody talked about, he's like, we were never supposed to speak about Al Pacino's Simone movie from 2002, but here we are. Apparently, Tilly Norwood is a completely made up AI generated actor, that for some apparent reason is possibly going to be signed by talent agencies, which is ridiculous. Specifically, a woman named Aline van der Velden, who launched the AI talent agency Koya and production company Particle 6 looking to lead some representation, which this is ridiculous. And of course, thankfully, SAG-AFTRA responded with this statement, which is about as concise as you can get. To be clear, Tilly Norwood is not an actor. It's a character generated by a computer program that was trained on the work of countless professional performers without permission or compensation. It has no life experience to draw from, no emotion, and from what we've seen, audiences aren't interested in watching computer generated content untethered from the human experience. It doesn't solve any problem. It creates the problem of using stolen performances to put actors out of work, jeopardizing performer livelihoods, and devaluing human artistry. Signatory producers should be aware that they may not use synthetic performers without complying with our contractual obligations, which require notice and bargaining whenever a synthetic performer is going to be used. I hate everything about this.
Aggressively agree. I think this is entirely disgusting. I'm not at all surprised that they are trying this even so soon after the strikes. And I think this really speaks to is a huge problem that I see with AI and AI art. You are removing when you have a computer create something based off of prompts, right? Create like a piece of art or doing an AI voice or what have you. You're removing the human element out of it. And what makes art so good is the human element out of it. Art is a view into the human soul. So when you take the human out of it, you take the soul out of it. So all you have is mass-produced capitalistic bullshit. It's awful. Like,
Yeah.
this is disgusting. Whoever greenlit this, I hope they never get to sleep. I hope they get tarred and feathered legitimately. Like, I think it's horrible. I know there's worse things happening in the world too right now, but like, for real, whoever came up with this and greenlit this is just a disgusting person.
I think it's going to get laughed out of the building.
Oh yeah, every single AI like video or thing they just look terrible. They sound awful. They're just garbage. Like Sonoma 2, I think, or whatever it is, just launched their new thing about this.
Oh, that's
it's
Sora
supposed
2? Did you see
Sora 2.
those
Yeah, I
videos?
watched. They were terrible, dude. Like, they're awful. Like, I
It's
just
just
like, as Corey said, I want something with heart and emotion. You can't get that from some automaton that's basically just stealing from other actors' performances.
Yeah, and I'm just as worried about like just people doing these like goofy little videos, which of course, there is some creativity there, but it's like at the end of the day it's still just fake. There's no human element like you said.
Yeah.
Not looking forward to it. A battle for another day.
Mm.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, hell of a resume. So when he says this was the hardest thing he's ever done in his life, I think you got to pay attention.
Yeah, so obviously he's coming out with his movie on Friday called The Smashing Machine, about the life of, or like a specific part of life of Mark Kerr, the UFC fighter.
Syracuse grad.
Syracuse Cat, yeah, already getting tons of fantastic reviews, praising his performance. But he was speaking to Variety, and he says, "This transformation was the hardest thing I've ever done. There was a physical transformation, prosthetics, vocal transformation. He has a very specific way of talking. When I first got together with Benny Safdie, we watched tapes of Mark, and Benny said, I want to film this and never cut away from you. I knew what that meant. He said, I don't want to cut away. I want to shoot this cinema verite with a prowling camera. You have a great stunt double, but I don't want to use him." And he was talking about, he said, in terms of the physicality, says it's not just gaining weight, it's putting on quality muscle that has fast twitch capacity. He's a wrestler. It's not about bodybuilding. I've never done so much trap and neck work in my life. Old school wrestlers with no necks, that's what I had to do. And I held that weight for 3.5 months. Then 2 weeks later, I had to roll into Moana. So it was Mark Kerr and Maui, big dudes. And it's no wonder that he looks super kind of thin right now, because could not have been easy having to keep that kind of weight on constantly.
I think that his struggle in this, of course, we all have always known The Rock to be this very large, muscular man. And based off of his description, I kind of have to agree. This is probably the hardest thing this man's ever had to do, because it's not that he had to do something that's difficult, which is really become this character. It's that he had to change the habits that he's had for decades now, for like the majority of his life, of working out a certain way or tanning a certain way, or because to lose that kind of muscle mass, it's not about working out. It's not about, oh, go get the cardio. You eat less and you sit there. And when have we ever known The Rock to just sit there and do nothing?
Yeah, the guy doesn't sleep.
Guy's been a lightning bolt since like 1999. I mean, it's nonstop. More sequel news this time with The Social Network. We've got a release date and a title.
Yep. So Aaron Sorkin is going to direct and write the follow-up to The Social Network, which is called The Social Reckoning, and is going to be released on October 9th, 2026. Jeremy Strong is going to play Mark Zuckerberg. Mikey Madison of Anora fame is going to play whistleblower Francis Haugen. And Jeremy Allen White is going to play Jeff Horowitz, the Wall Street Journal reporter who wrote a series of articles that exposed the revelations about Facebook's inner workings. And also Bill Burr is going to be joining the film. But the official logline is a logline reads, a companion piece to the hit film The Social Network. Sorkin's original screenplay tells the true story of how Francis Haugen Madison, a young Facebook engineer, enlists the help of Jeff Horowitz, White, a Wall Street Journal reporter, to go on a dangerous journey that ends up blowing the whistle on the social network's most guarded secrets. It focuses on how the company's own reporting pointed to the negative effects the company's social media was having on teens and kids, how it knew misinformation was proliferating and causing violence, and how it contributed to the violent insurrection of January 6, 2021. Count me in. You got my money. I'm all over this thing.
Yeah, as long as it moves with that Sorkin flavor, which of course it should because he's writing the damn thing. It should be good again, I hope. I'm not as pumped as the original because I like the origin story era. Like how deep into the issues are they going to get? I think the beauty of the first one was like, hey, here's this thing we kind of grew up with, or at least in our 20s, right? For Cory Cook and I. So I don't know if it's going to hit as hard as that first one did, but I think once the trailer hits for me, then I'll know for sure whether or not I'm like 100% in or not.
I mean, I think it's going to hit hard because the world is so much different now than it was in 2010 when the original Social Network movie hit. So this
my feeling is just that like I don't need this movie to tell me what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Facebook
It's like
sucks?
I don't.
No way.
Yeah, I don't need like I love Aaron Sorkin. I mean, West Wing's my all-time favorite show, but like, what's he going to pull out of his ass that I don't already know about?
I mean,
social media.
In the courtroom scene, there's going to be some type of like soapbox
Big
moment that Aaron
yeah.
Sorkin writes a 15-minute speech about, that he's like going to sit there look at it after his typewriter after and go, yeah, this will make him applaud again. And just like this is the one kind of thing. And
I wonder if he's even still got it. I mean, we know he's got the rat-a-tat-tat, but to be able to hit with that big like moral club like he used to, like, can you still do it?
I mean, the last film of his I saw was the Trial of the Chicago 8 film that he did.
Good.
It was really, really good. But again, there were just so many. There was like this whole courtroom moment where like the lawyer is standing up and saying this, and then you find out none of this actually happened.
Yeah,
that didn't, or not. Well, like that moment didn't actually happen, kind of thing. And it, to me, that kind of cheapens it. But also, it is Sorkin. Like if he really is passionate about it, I think he's going to be able to do a good job. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
You can never say what you want about Aaron Sorkin. I think he's an amazing screenwriter, an amazing dialogue writer. You can never say that guy is not passionate. He is passionate to a
He's
fault.
all passion.
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio, again, the toast of Hollywood with one battle after another. An upcoming film with Marty Scorsese should keep him at the top of the heap for a while.
Yeah. So, obviously, this happens every time Marty releases a film, and then we talk about what his next film is going to be, and it's like 5 different friggin' things seemingly.
Is he
but
even still doing the Jesus film?
I guess not. I don't know. But it finally looks like things are coming into place here, or it's coming into focus because Apple Films is in final negotiation to finance and produce What Happens at Night, which is good. Then the production, it looks to be starting in January 2026 with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, and it is based. It's The project is based on Peter Cameron's What Happens at Night, a spooky tale of an American couple who traveled to a small European town to adopt a baby. And it says the story is a dreamlike story of a married American couple who traveled to a small, snowy European town to adopt a baby. They check into a cavernous, largely deserted hotel where they encounter an enigmatic cast of characters, including a flamboyant chanteuse, a depraved businessman, and a charismatic faith healer. Nothing is quite as it seems in this strange frozen world. As the couple struggle to claim their baby, the less they seem to know about themselves and the life they've built together. And Leonardo DiCaprio actually recently said that the inspiration for this movie is also going to be leaning heavily on Hitchcock's Vertigo. So
Ah.
I'm down for this. I think sounds very Shutter Island-esque vibes, which to me is one of the most underrated of Scorsese's works. So when you got DiCaprio, then throw Jennifer Lawrence there, and the premise of this movie, count me in. I'm there.
And then,
And
of
the
course,
fact
you're going
that
to have Stones as painted black in the background during the whole thing.
probably because of course, but the fact that Apple Films is financing it, it makes me even happier because I know it's a streamer and all, but basically all the Apple and those guys give the dudes like Scorsese carte blanche to do whatever they want,
Let them cook.
which is what these directors want at this point in their life. So I'm down for it. Let's go.
Yeah, same. I mean, anything Scorsese comes out with is absolutely worth a watch, whether depending on how you ever feel about it. Like, you might think it's good, you might think it's bad, but at the end of the day, like, he gets you talking about his films, and I think that's something super important, no matter who you are.
They're always an event, right? Especially with DiCaprio too. Like that connection those two have now. I mean, it's almost topped the Scorsese De Niro thing if it hasn't already. So
Whenever I think about Scorsese, I think of like what is it? Will Ferrell saying it's provocative, it gets the people going.
do you have a Scorsese impression?
I can't. No, I've tried.
I'm surprised you haven't. Yeah, he
There's
seems
a
like
doc
someone in
coming
your
out
wheelhouse.
about him on Apple,
Oh,
actually called
okay.
called Mr. Scorsese. So
Ooh,
Are you sure it's
take
not
my
called
money.
Blow?
no,
As if we couldn't be more excited for the Highlander reboot, the film just added another big-time name to the cast list. This just keeps getting more interesting and more interesting.
I know we've already got obviously Henry Cavill, we've got Russell Crowe, we've got Karen Gillian, Marissa Abella, Jamin Hansu, and also
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker. No, Paul Walker. And then Dave Bautista as the Kurgan. But we've just added Academy Award winner Jeremy Irons, who is going to be playing the leader of a secret order called the Watchers, who are keeping an eye on the immortals and see them as a threat to humanity. I don't know if either one of you ever watched the Highlander television show, but that's exactly where that's from. So that wasn't in the movies. That was from the television show. So that's very interesting to me. Man, they're just adding some great actors to this movie.
I won't lie. For the first time in a long time, when I saw that headline, I said, "Oh shit, Jeremy Irons is still alive." And I haven't done that with a celebrity in a while, which is terrible to say, right?
I thought he was dead.
Nope.
Oh, it's AI. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think even if this film ends up being a steaming pile of trash, I think we're all going to enjoy Jeremy Irons chewing every piece of scenery. Because here's the thing about Jeremy Irons. If I had a nickel for every time Jeremy Irons was the villain, every time that Jeremy Irons was in a bad film about dragons, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot of nickels, but it's weird it's happened twice. But in each film, that man is just loving every moment of his life.
It's so strange, like what he shows up in. Like he'll do Reversal of Fortune and win an Oscar, or he'll show up in the Watchmen, show on HBO, and then he'll go do Dungeons and Dragons.
Die Hard with a Vengeance. And even Russell Crowe, too. Like, let's not forget, he can chew the hell out of scenes, especially now that he's gotten older. Like,
Yes.
I feel like he leans into that type of thing, too. So, 6 wild headlines, Cory Cook. Now our feature presentation, Nosferatu, coming out on, of course, Christmas of 2024. A
Cheeky bugger.
I know, that Robert Eggers, a fairly straightforward adaptation from everything I've read. Narratively, I didn't find a whole lot of surprises. I mean, unless you were, especially if you've seen the 1922 Nosferatu, if you've read the Bram Stoker novel, The way I see it, none of this really matters. I thought this just felt different. It looked different. I thought Robert Eggers' direction was cooking. Intricate cinematography from, is it Yaron or Jaron Blaschke?
I think it's Yaron Latchkey.
Those two together, man. I mean, we'll start with this. Cory K, horror film fan you are. Does Nosferatu scratch the itch?
I am going to be the detractor here, and I'm going to say that overall, not really for me. I think that from a technical standpoint, this film is fantastic. The cinematography alone, oh my god. Oh my god. This is, if you're doing a horror film, watch this for the cinematography. This is how you get a feel for what you're building to in a film, how you consistently build suspense. There's barely any time where we get a full reveal of Count Orlok, which is
not really until the end, I think.
Not until the end when we get the
sex scene there.
Right. That even then, you never get to see his entire body. Like when he stands up in the crypt in the dark, you can't see all of him, and that kind of makes him a bit more terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, like the performances are really good. I think my issues with the film is that it's a little longer than it needed to be. Even though I enjoyed the ride, it's just, this didn't need to be over 2 hours, in my opinion.
That's fair. I think, Cory, you've kind of expressed what I think other people who are detractors of this film have really said. But I'm glad you brought up the visual effects, and you said it perfect. Like, if you are somebody who's looking to start, hey, I want to make a horror film, you should watch this film. Because the way that it's like that, I swear to God, that shot where you see early on where it's or Nicholas Holt's Thomas Hutter, where he's walking up that road in the snow. I want that as like a fucking oil painting in my house. Like that is one of the most literally, like, listen, I know this is going to sound hyperbolic, but this is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Just the imagery is just so haunting. And that in itself is enough, I think, is worth the watch. I'm somewhat agree with you in that maybe they probably could have trimmed maybe 10, 15 minutes off this, and it might have made it a little bit tighter and a little bit better. But it really worked for me. But I can see how, like from a technical aspect, as you said, Cory, it's hard to like criticize shit. But for sometimes it's like it's maybe not all the sum of the parts doesn't work, and that's perfectly fine. But from like just a cinematic technical standpoint, you could study this film for years and get stuff out of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I got out of it the most was, I liked the film. I didn't love it. It was more, what is Eggers and Blaschke going to kind of do? Because, of course, like, Northman's one of my favorite films over the last, probably this, the 21st century here. So I was really curious to see what he would do with this legendary character and legendary story. And, I wasn't super connected emotionally with a lot of the characters, even with, with Depp and Nicholas Holt's character. But I think once we got into where Holt's like on the verge, just entering the mansion there, his like crypt there, his castle, whatever you want to call it, Orlok's castle. That scene, that like, what was it, 15 minutes where he's going through there and you don't see Orlok. It's the first time you really hear Orlok. That's just a classic tension building there. And just the way, like, where the camera was, certain shots, he's almost like Wes Anderson, like Blaschke, and like where he has like the camera set up, like very what do you call it, the shot very symmetrical, like a wide angle
symmetrical,
a lot of like symmetry in some of these shots, right? It feels like everything's purposeful and intentional, which I like. So almost from like a film nerd standpoint, I kind of really dug it, especially that one scene and a couple other scenes. But I think my state of mind coming into this was just, even though it's, it's October, it's Halloween, I wasn't really in the mood for just this kind of story, but I was really taken with the technical aspect and the performances.
Yeah.
Lily Rose Depp, I had zero experience with her. I thought physicality wise, like, this was interesting to see like what she was doing here. What did you guys think of what she brought to the table?
Well, I want to ask Cory's thoughts on that because My takeaway, listen, I've seen like two things with Lily Rose Depp in it, so I really didn't have much thing other than knowing that she's Johnny Depp's daughter.
Right,
I
right.
came away with this going, she's not a nepo baby. She can
Yeah,
fucking act, because
right.
all of those scenes where she is like contorting her body and her mouth and her eyes, none of that CGI. That's all her. What did you think
Mm.
about her performance there, Corey?
So I have seen Lily Rose Depp in two films prior to this, 2014's Tusk and 2016's Yoga Hosers, part of the I can't remember the trilogy that Kevin Smith is in the middle of making
Yeah.
of horror films. This is completely opposite side of the coin for her, but even like back then with those films and what I've seen her in, she was pretty good for what she was doing. In this, I just learned that that was not CGI at all when her with her body movements. Holy crap, this girl can act. Where was her Oscar nomination?
Thank you.
Her whole body acted. I mean, there's facial expressions that I don't think I'll be able to get out of my mind for the next like couple of months. And that's rare for a movie. Usually it's a scene that I remember or a needle drop, right? Like most of us, or a great line. I think with here it was like some of those facial expressions she was able to conjure up throughout this.
Well, that one scene with her and Nicholas Holt as her husband, Hutter there, is just like so much goes on in that one scene, like this gamut
Like the
of
awkward
emotions,
makeup
the
sex
awkward,
scene.
the awkward
Yeah.
makeup sex, the her, revealing like, this is all my fault. I drew this horrible, creature into our lives because of, what I've done and who I am. And then it just there's just like, she's like all apologetic and forlorn, and then she's like, he's better than you. It's like this whole like flip thing that happens. it
Mhm.
is it is like a scene, Corey, where you're in awe, but you're also trying to keep up because there is like so much shit coming at your head in that scene.
Yeah, and I think that what that speaks to with so many things is flip-flopping between like the themes and like what's being said is kind of showing the chaos that is really happening within her. And she sells it so well with her mannerisms, the way she switches up the way of delivering lines, the voices that she changes to. I personally love one of the things that I think is just so one of the things I notice when actors are being like that, where they're having like spasms and stuff, I like looking at their hands more than anything. Because what are your fingers doing? And if you go back and you watch it, look at her fingers and notice like on one hand, it's doing one thing and the other hand is completely doing it's not
Hmm.
like she's like this, where most people when they're acting, they're like, my hands are handing. She's like this with one hand, and the other hand is like convulsing in a completely different it's so good that for and you go talk about symmetry, it's something that lacks symmetry that we as humans are so used to having with symmetry, and it's again further playing into the psychological mind of us to kind of further push that horror that we feel, that dread that we're feeling, like there is some, we know that there's something off, but now I really feel like there's something off. Again, just further speaking to how technically great of a horror film this is.
How much credit do you give to Bill Skarsgård here as Nosferatu, and how much credit do you give to just to Plashke and Eggers and just setting up Nosferatu? Because I was surprised by how. I mean, I could have gone through this not even knowing that was Skarsgård. As good as he was, I can't tell if he actually was good or if it was just a matter of they framed the hell out of this and the setup was just pitch perfect.
Well, I'll get Corey's take on this a second, but for me, it's equal half and half, because like you said, if I didn't know ahead of hand that this before time that this was Bill Skarsgård, I would not have known at all.
Right, right. I was
And I
surprised by
think
that.
the way he brings this character to life, this is the anti-Twilight. There is no sexiness about. He is a fucking dead creature. He is evil. He is disgusting. There's nothing redeeming about him. It's even like completely opposite than what you saw really with like Gary Oldman in Bram Stoker's Dracula. At least there was kind of like
Where there was some charm
some
there.
some charm and sexiness. No, he's just like unapologetically evil. The way he's intones his voice, just the way he just wants to possess people. He's like, I'm not capable of love. I don't care. I'm going to have ownership over you anyway. But I think the other half of that, like you said, is Blatchy and Eggers' framing, which Corey has expertly pointed out before. He's always like kind of in the foreground, or in the background or in the foreground. You never get a good look at him. And to me, Corey, that kind of forced through the idea of this like pervasive sense of dread that he's always like there somewhere.
So I think that to kind of go more based off of what Luke was asking here with that, of like what do I really think about him? I didn't know it was Skarsgård either until like the end of the film, and I looked up like who played him. Oh, Skarsgård. And so knowing what we know about Nosferatu is a ripoff of Bram Stoker's Dracula. When the original film was released, the estate of the Bram's Stoker's estate sued the production company to the point where like a judge was like, yeah, this is absolutely, you're ripping off Dracula. You have to destroy all of the film, kind of thing, right? So if you want to look at it as from like a very basic standpoint, Nosferatu is a very stripped down Dracula, right? Nosferatu isn't the story at the end of the day. The people are the story. So I think that Skarsgård did his job in that he didn't truly stand out as like the story to me here. I feel like you probably could have replaced him with just about anyone.
That's what I thought too.
And as long as that person's able to hold back and not like make huge theatrics, they don't need to do a 30-minute long Jeremy Irons in Dungeons and Dragons type of speech.
Right.
Right.
The film still works because again, the story of Nosferatu is about this creature that hungers. It's ugly, it's disgusting, it's what you expect out of a creature. Whereas Dracula, there is that whole hint of like forlorn, like missing of a lost love with Dracula. There's that sexiness with Dracula, that swooning where he's like, no, I'm going to convince you to be on my side because I am just that damn good looking. Whereas Nosferatu's like, I'm just going to take whatever the hell I want. I'm a disgusting piece of garbage and I'm powerful. You can't stop me.
I'm going to get into your soul.
I think, Corey, I like the two things you said that really kind of stuck out to me is one is the idea of, I think what I'm hearing from you from Bill Skarsgård is he showed some excellent restraint, which you kind of have in a character like this and not go over the top. And I think that played into what, like you said, it's not necessarily about the vampire in this. It's about what his actions do to the people around him and the manipulation and the corruption of everything and everyone around him that he touches. And I think from that perspective, Eggers and company did a good job of doing that rather than like kind of, I don't want to say the vampire's forgotten, but he's not the spotlight. You know what I mean? Really, in this case, the character of Ellen, Lily Rose Depp's character, really is the star. That's the spotlight in this case.
But man, Nicholas Hoult though really bringing some funk too. I mean, just we talked about Depp's acting, especially like the physicality and her facial expressions. Hoult, when he first meets Orlok, I mean, that's terrifying because I don't think you would get that terror as much anyway as the viewer if not for kind of what Holt's doing there. Cory K, what'd you think of his performance overall in this role? The ultimate like cuckold, right? Hutter here, but really, really kind of fun to watch, I think.
I think they kind of kept that that's definitely something that was very apparent from what they took from Dracula, right? Because whoever his name, I've never read.
It's like book. Different name, but similar with Dracula and
right. What they did, because it was a German production company that shot Nosferatu, they literally said, we want to make Dracula, but for the German audience. So that's why they changed all the names. That's like Thomas Hutter instead of like Tom.
Instead of Jonathan Harkness is the character from Dracula.
Right. We're not making this an English thing. We're making this a German thing. And that was kind of part of why they're like, maybe we can get away with this. Because they absolutely knew what they were doing at the end of the day.
His performance, I mean, I think what's amazing to me and I wanted to get your thoughts on that too, Corey, was just, you both brought up the idea of like when he first meets Orlok and he first goes into that castle. I don't know if I've seen somebody, Corey, that's been able to convey abject horror on his face while trying to keep his shit together of saying stuff from like a lawyerly standpoint about documents. But at the same time, you can see in his eyes, I am in the room with a creature of pure evil, and I don't think I'm ever going to leave this room again. That's what I got out of it anyway from him.
I think you're right. I think that we definitely get that from Nicholas Hoult here. I don't think it's anything really. I don't think it's an emotion or a performance that I would say is anything new, but it's still a good performance at the end of the day. That scene, particularly where he does meet Orlok for the first time, in that you as the viewer, even as someone who knew what was going to happen, I kind of question of like, okay, I know how remakes can go sometimes, so like do they just decide to kill this guy for kicks and giggles here or something like that? Does the other guy who played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, is he the guy who's going to be kind of like the one coming to be the savior at the end of the day? What's going to happen here? And I think that I think that Holt definitely did a good job in selling that and making me question what is actually about to happen, because the character truly is like believing I'm not going to make it out of here alive, but I still have my duty that I have to follow through. He's barely pushing through all of the emotions within him, of this instinct within him that's telling him you need to run. And he showcases that really well.
Cory Cook, wanted to get your take on how Eggers and the boys kind of set up this. This is almost, it's a period piece in a way. Mm-hmm. It feels like that. You're transported. Did you feel that? And what did you like about what they did to kind of put you in this different country and time period?
Well, I think, obviously you set it up right at the beginning of this 1838. It's in Weisburg, Germany. And what I came away with this was thinking was like, this was like being inside a early 19th century Gothic painting. That was the vibe that they were going for, and it completely encapsulates you. Because, listen, I got to give credit where it's due. The production design, the sets, the costumes, that was done. By the way, this was nominated for cinematography, costume design, production design, best hair makeup and hairstyling, all worthy as far as I'm concerned, because didn't win any of them, by the way. But all those, to me, those people working at the top of their game, getting things done, because again, it draws you into that world. You need to have that type of realism, that verisimilitude, to suspend your belief and be like, okay, I'm in 1830s, Germany, or in Transylvania, Romania, wherever it is at that particular moment. But the other thing that I really liked, and I rarely see directors being able to do this, is the fact that there was so much natural lighting in this movie, but you could see everything that was happening. And there's just so many times. I mean, we've talked about it with Game of Thrones ad nauseum with the season 8, but there's so many times where people do, directors, whoever chooses to do natural lighting, and you just can't see shit. But that wasn't the case here. It almost, the way things were done, sometimes it almost seemed completely black and white, or at the very least things seemed faded out. But in terms of like drawing you into that world, I absolutely felt like I was there.
Hard agree. I think that as a period piece, this does a very good job of capturing maybe not what the times really were about, but like I think the social hierarchy of the times, where Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is kind of like talking to like, be careful of how you talk to somebody who's done all of these nice things for you, kind of thing. And he's like, well, you're just going to insult me, get the hell out of my house, kind of thing. And I think that while those things have carried over throughout time, the whole like, don't disrespect me within my house when you are a guest sort of thing, I think that it can make it relatable by showcasing that, of course, and that like, no, this is kind of an older tradition of where we get this from. And I think again, it does a really great job also with the production, like the costumes, the hairstyling, the makeup, the production design fantastic. I think that if this film didn't go up against both Wicked and The Substance, would have taken makeup, hairstyling, costume, and production. And same thing, if it didn't go up against The Brutalist, it would have won cinematography.
Yeah, tough competition.
Tough year.
for sure.
Real hard year.
But what I also thought,
Absolutely.
what I like too, and Luke, I want to maybe get your thoughts on this too, is that yes, it's in Germany, but this feels very Victorian. Everybody feels very buttoned up and has that very almost like posh sensibility about proprietary is, being proprietary is everything, as Corey, perfectly pointed out a second ago. You don't insult somebody within, their own house, and everybody's having cigars and brandy, and how they talk about sex even or whatever is very kind of buttoned up, and that aspect. I kind of got that sense from watching the film. Did you get that kind of Victorian era even though it wasn't in England?
Yeah, that's a great point, because it's almost like Eggers doesn't know what Germany was like in the 1800s. And I'll be honest, I don't really either. Like, there were times where I forgot that it was not in England somewhere, right? There was a couple times where, they mention a town, or because does Weisberg really exist?
I think so.
Yeah, we'll say it does, right?
Yeah.
And then even when they showed some of those shots of the town, right? It was almost like it looked like you were on the roof, like it was kind of those Peter Pan shots, as I like to say. Not sure if it was even a real shot. I don't think it was. Where you're like, oh yeah, that's right. They're in like a small town in Germany. But yeah, I mean, it's more of the time period, I guess, probably, than anything, right? Like 1800s Europe, very prim and proper, and then all of a sudden, boom, shit gets real strange, after a while.
Well, to speak from a historical standpoint, Germany did have a lot of the same social and political developments that the Victorian era in England had, really right around the same time. And if this film takes place in 1838, so it's about a year after the Victorian era happened, you could probably influence is influence. It's travels, especially when the countries are so close together.
Well, yeah, any country with royalty, I feel like, had some of the similar, like England, France, even Russia.
Right. And especially back then when, you still had dukes, you had lords, you had counts of not just in England, but you had the King of Spain, you had again, the Lord of the Rings. No, not that.
Shire,
wait a minute.
But still, no, you had lords and you had people from all around Europe and then some, still with that blue blood, better than you type of attitude. And I think that they captured that without it being kind of directly in your face, without making it the story is so dependent on it. So I kind of liked that aspect a little bit.
At some point, I want to say halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way in, Willem Dafoe shows up. I forget that he's in it, even though he's one of the aspects that I was looking forward to. And I kind of lit up, right? It was like, oh, we get a little unintentional levity almost, because it's like, Dafoe and his eccentricities, right, and his quirkiness. And then I got to thinking, as much as I enjoyed his performance, does he ever take people out of the situation? He didn't for me in this, but I do wonder about that with other movie fans out there. If it's like, oh gosh, Willem Dafoe just adds so much of a, curveball that it, throws kind of the narrative off balance a little bit.
Well, here's my thing, and then because I want to see if Corey has maybe a similar perspective, is that, see, it's hard for me to say that, because the fact that going into this, I know what Abraham Van Helsing is like. I know what Professor Bulwer is like from the original Nosferatu. I know what that character is like from the Dracula novel. He's this eccentric Swiss dude who's out there. I mean, there's he gets talked about before he actually comes on screen. By other people, no matter what iteration it is. It's always someone else like, hey, I'm going to consult with this guy. Now, you got to know, he's a little eccentric. He's a little crazy. So you kind of expect that going in. So it's not as big of a, shocker, I guess. But I can see how, if you're not familiar with that, it can almost seem kind of like, okay, this is almost getting farcical or absurdist. What was your kind of perspective on that, Corey?
Well, I think if we're talking about like this is a German film at the end. This is based off of a German film, so there's a lot of German elements in that. And Germans tend to be very very serious, very direct, like very like there's not a lot of and for the Germans listening or watching this, don't come at me, bro. But there's not a lot of joy, outward joy
Hmm.
in like the culture type of thing, especially in the art. Like look at German expressionism. You think that's joyful? Come on now. Let's be serious here. But
There's a
I
ruggedness there, right?
Yeah.
yeah, nothing like black and white skulls to really tie the room together. But I think that with that, and then you have this other guy who is outward with his emotions. He is eccentric. He's almost like he's like 3 seconds away always from just getting up and dancing to music that isn't around.
Oh,
And
perfect description.
he exudes this type of joy and or even I wouldn't say joy, excitement. Like yes, he's like, oh, this is very serious, but he's excited about how serious this all is and how like dire everything is as it unfolds. So I think that what's so shocking about him, or even if you know the character going in, is that the entire film, like I think you're right, Luke, he comes in about right about the halfway point or a little bit after. The entire time we just see everybody who's very prim and proper and they're not expressing joy. They're not really they have one serious tone the entire time, and then you have this guy who is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and loving life for it. So I think I could see where he could be a bit of a shock to people going in because so far in this world, we're not used to establishing the rule that people in this world could be like him. But because he's an outlier, it also inspires in us like, okay, maybe it's not going to end horribly. Maybe there is some type of hope because this guy is different, which means our expectations can be different.
And that's a great point, Corey. And he kind of is like challenging expectations. He's like the emotional as opposite of like the Victorian stuffiness that people are getting into. Because listen, this is all about the outs, the other world, other possibilities, the occult, things that we don't deal with or believe in on a daily basis, going up against the rational world. I mean, Friedrich, who played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, is constantly saying, this is madness. This is not how things, he's such in that I run a business and I do a shipping company and this is how things are, or even saying it's like, there's no beast, there's no monster here. It's just the plague. It's just the plague. It's just the plague. And he's constantly trying to say, no, that's not the case. And the fact is that he's almost like saying, if you can't expand your mind, this creature is going to come in and absolutely fuck up your entire family. And that's exactly what ends up happening. Honestly, I think Friedrich and what happens with him and his wife Anna for Emma Corring and their two kids is probably the most tragic thing in the world because of the fact that they bring in Ellen out of compassion and love and wanting to do the right thing and inadvertently bring in this evil presence that just completely destroys their family.
And it also puts more pressure on Ellen at the end of the day because it turns because even before those deaths happened, she was like, oh my God, I did this. I caused this. She has all of this just self-loathing, this grief that she has that she's like, I did this. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah.
Like she's literally bringing that, but then like it does. And when it finally materializes in losing not just her best friend, but losing what are essentially her nieces at the same time, it's kind of what makes her decide like there's only one way to end this. I have to give in. That's it. Like that's what truly made her decide like I can't now lose the man I love, my husband. I have to give in to this creature.
And this isn't a topic, but I just got to give a shout out while it's on the top of my mind. Simon McBurney, who plays Herr Canuck, I just got a kick out of him multiple times in this film. He would have been a great candidate, Corey, for the old whatchamacallit award that we
Leo McKern.
Leo McKern.
Award. Yeah.
the old Leo McKern award. He would have been the perfect candidate. I was thinking a lot about Robert Eggers, of course, constantly through this film because 10 years to make, I guess, a passion project. Based on his style, who would you guys like to see him? I shouldn't say who. What kind of film would you like to see him tackle going forward? Clearly, he's got some themes in his 5 or 6 film, very small resume so far. Is there a certain genre or a topic that you'd like to see him tackle
Well, here's
based
what's
on his skill set?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm very interested to see his next film, which is called Werewolf, which is going to
Right.
be set in like the 14th century. So I'm interested in that. But here's one that I think would weirdly work is anything having to do with Jules Verne, and adapting his work,
Ah,
because they seem like they would kind of mash up,
yeah,
his 19th century stylings. Because listen, Eggers has said multiple times, he's like, I'm never going to make a movie that's probably past the 1920s. The idea of having
that's great.
shooting a film with a cell phone in it just makes me want to throw up, which is fine.
Yeah.
Stay in your wheelhouse. You're obviously very successful at what you're doing.
We need
But
that kind of talent, right? You need a
yeah,
different, like, kind of pitcher in the rotation like this.
exactly. But yeah, for me, I think I would love to see him tackle like a Jules Verne. Like if he did some type of like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea version, that from brought to you by Robert Eggers, like with Willem Dafoe as Captain Nemo, as obvious as that
Jeez.
might sound, I'd be fucking down for that. What do you say, Corey?
Well,
Gangster flick. No.
no, not at all. I think that, with him, Eggers is really good. So this is the only film I've seen of his, but I've heard of other people talk about him. And my understanding, he's very good with like power of belief. He's also really good with what's myth, what's reality, and kind of just blurring those lines together really, really well. And also just like fear of the unknown and fear of those who are in power. Right. And with that all in mind, I think a Care Bears movie would be perfect for him.
Now that's a curveball, ladies and
That's a
gentlemen.
great choice.
I can't defend what I'm about to say, but I think just like a Western, I would just like to see what he would do in that kind of world.
As much as I think the book is overrated and it's a dense thing to read, I've talked about this. I
The
honestly
Catcher in
think
the Rye would be terrific in Robert
honestly,
Eggers.
I think he would be the perfect director to adapt Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I think he'd
Actually,
be the perfect
yes.
director for that.
That's an
honestly.
excellent call.
That's like
Excellent call.
the same exact vibe and whatnot in my mind.
Yeah, when you read that book, it feels like you got to go back and read certain sections. Like I don't understand what he
very
meant
dense.
here.
It's very
Yeah, and
dense.
like there's some supernatural weirdo shit going on, and I feel like in Eggers' hands, he would. You might be onto something there, sir.
What if he did? What if instead he did a mini series and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
I could see that. That would work.
Miniseries
That's in that
specifically.
Jules Verne world too. Yeah.
I could see that.
Pre-1900s or just at the cusp of 1900. I think you have the horror aspects, the sci-fi aspects of it. You have the exploration of like the human, like the whole like fear of the unknown, blurring the lines of reality and myth. I think, but again, as a mini series specifically, we don't ever need another League of Extraordinary Gentlemen film. We've already proven that doesn't work as well as it should have. So let's just do a mini series and really explore this if we're going to do it.
That would be a good one.
I like that a lot. Table Scraps, Aaron Taylor Johnson, good casting choice.
Yes, I honestly think, dude, like with each passing film that he decides to do, Craven the Hunter notwithstanding, I get more and more impressed with his choices and like the fact that he can act. The dude can just flat out act.
And he's got presence.
He does. Like I said, his character is like one of the most tragic in this because he's the ultimate rationale person, person of rationality and logic confronted with something that he doesn't understand and he can't deal with. And to see somebody who's like so stuffed up and buttoned in with his emotions slowly start to lose his mind and like just not being able to at all deal with it. When he gets to the point where he just basically, pulls a Shakespeare and goes into the crypt and poisons himself and lies down with his family, I'm like, that's fucking brutal.
Yeah, he's like the most tragic then because he loses too.
It's not that he loses his family, he loses his mind once he loses his family. He literally loses the will to live because his desire, this is a man who, okay, your wife and kids just died and all right, well, he still has all this money, right? He's like, who the hell am I living for if not for you? And also the loss of, keep in mind his wife was pregnant. too.
Yeah.
Frederick Jr., as he kept affectionately calling, like, oh, you're finally going to give me a boy. And losing that just sent him completely over the edge. And I think that overall, he gave a really good performance and exactly the performance that role needed right up until those last few moments.
Robin Carolyn on score. Cory Cook, fan?
I was very much a fan. It was because here's the thing: the biggest task for Eggers and company and all involved was to keep a pervasive sense of dread throughout this entire movie. You didn't need to necessarily have big jump scares or have it, just being like this blood and guts and gore because it's not a super gory movie for the most part. But you needed to keep that pervasive sense of dread throughout the whole movie where you felt like something terrible was going to happen at any time to anyone somewhere. And I don't think you do that as well without Robin Carolan's um, music score. I think it's a good score. I think it does the job. I don't necessarily think it's like, it's not like John Williams level, but it has that very, I hate to say it, but it has that kind of like Victorian feel to it. A lot of woodwinds and like discordant strings and things like that kind of just it keeps the blood elevated, so to speak.
That's a good way to put it.
It does its job at the end of the day, and like a lot of things in this film that don't stand out as just technically amazing, and a lot of the performances in it does its job, and so I can't really say it didn't fit, it was horrible, blah blah blah. It did what it needed to do, which is important, but also it's not anything that I felt was memorable.
Yeah, it's not a Hans Zimmer situation where I'm going to be humming this or something like that for sure.
You're not throwing this on the Spotify tomorrow at work while you're
Not
plugging
tomorrow,
away, right?
No. I've got one last thing to talk about because it really kind of jumped at me. This is only the second time I watched it, but how much this is real. This film is an absolute like feminist critique if you look at it from the perspective solely of Lily Rose Depp, because she, as Cory said before, she like has this whole thing of like it's my fault, I drew him to us and this and that, when all it where there's this implied connection between like sexual awakening and that's somehow bad enough that if you have a sexual awakening as a woman that's going to draw a demon spirit into your life for one. So it's like, okay, that's a critique. And the other thing too is that not only is she putting the burden of that on herself, but also, she is the one that's forced to actually confront and defeat this creature at the cost of her own life, while at the same time having to convince her husband that they're the ones that they're going to go off and save the day and destroy the creature. So, like, to me, it's an absolute feminist critique breakdown of that time and that period and what it means to have sexuality as a woman and kind of have a lack of power dynamic in that case. But it's also horribly tragic to me in that she is the one that suffers all these consequences for the most part, Friedrich and like his family not involved.
Thanks for your sacrifice, Ellen Sutter.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a whore. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but I think I think to me that speaks to the larger aspect of why Eggers' films are so great. Because you could take any of the films that he's done, and of course you've only seen the one, but you could take all four of the films that he's done and put them in film schools and pick them apart from all these different cinematic aspects, but also the critiques and the messages that he tries to portray and put in as well. And to me, that's art.
Yeah, and that's why I think his movies have been event viewing for a lot of us, right? What's he going to come up with next?
Yeah.
What kind of hidden moral tales is he going to, tuck under these 2 shots or 3?
That's why I'm saying Care Bears.
You might be onto something as well.
Actually, Rainbow Bright might be better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, boys and girls, or however you identify across these 26 known galaxies, it's time once again for Cory and Luke's recommendations. This can be anything, can be books, can be movies, can be a song, a dance, a sunrise, a sunset, a joke, a lyric, anything and everything is up for grabs. Let's go round robin. Mr. Luke Mayo, what are some of your recommendations this week?
You mentioned dance in that intro. Has somebody actually recommended dance yet?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll get there eventually. It's not going to be that day. Is not today. First recommendation is a book that I'm rereading, one of my favorite political books of all time. It is more glorious than I remember, and wow, does it hit. It's called The Democratic Century, a biography of Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House. Back in the 80s, him and Reagan kind of went tit for tat, but one of the great political characters of all time, big, heavy-set Boston politician who, chomped cigars and was the inspiration for one of the cartoon characters in the cartoon Shoe, the comic book Shoe. It was in the newspaper back in the day. But I love hearing like the backroom dealings. And, he's the one that came up with the all politics is local. Chris Matthews eventually joined his staff, and then he became who Chris Matthews became. But it's just it's a fun look at Congress and the rise to get to that point. A lot of good Kennedy stuff, of course, in there as well, because he took over JFK's congressional seat once JFK ran for the Senate. So I recommend The Democratic Century, Tip O'Neill biography. Super fascinating.
Starting off, as always, folks, I'm going to go ahead and plug my own podcast that eventually we will come back to. We've taken about a year hiatus because life has been crazy. But if you want to go ahead and you like my takes, you want to check out some more of them, you can go ahead and listen to me and one of my best friends, Steve.
Talking Care Bears.
We're talking Care Bears next week. No, we are... Our podcast is called That Sounds Terrible. Go on. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify. You can even find our own TeePublic store. You can buy a t-shirt of some of the designs of the things that I have designed and Steve has designed. teepublic.com. And go ahead and look up That Sounds Terrible Pod is the name of my user. I've got some fun little things on there. And of course, whenever I have an idea, I will upload it there. So please, buy merch, support us. Thank you very much. Corey, what you got?
All right. So my first recommendation is a book I just finished I finished this in like 4 days. It's called The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, Hermann Goering, Dr. Douglas M. Kelly, and a Fatal Meeting of Minds at the End of World War II. This is was a fantastic book. So this is basically, after all the German high command gets taken to Nuremberg and put away, this Dr. Kelly, who was a psychiatrist at the time, came in, did all these interviews, developed relationships with people. And what's interesting is basically what we found out from the Nuremberg trials and the people that examine them is basically there's 3 schools of thought that have come out. One is the idea you've heard before. That was talked a lot about during Eichmann's trial, the banality of evil, that basically these were people just following orders. They didn't think about it. It was very rote. Other people are saying that there was another person, I forget what the other psychiatrist that was there, saying that this was a special circumstance, and that the German people were caught up in like some basically a mania, and that they were all kind of crazy and this and that and the other thing. And then there's the third one that doesn't get talked about as much because it wasn't as popular and as well regarded and as brutally accurate as it's become. And that's this Dr. Kelly's interpretation, which was basically that there was his repeated reviews of these people was that there was nothing extraordinarily special about them when it came to their psyche. These were normal, average people that for some reason did these situations. And his idea and the book that he wrote and published that didn't get a lot of run was basically like the conditions that happen there could happen anywhere. And because of what happened in Germany with that situation, we have to do all we can to fight against fascism within our own country. And everyone was basically like, that can't happen. You're crazy. And here we are today. So it's a very fascinating read. It's even incredibly more fascinating about what actually ends up becoming of Dr. Kelly and how he really wasn't the best guy in the world after the fact. So I highly recommend that. It's actually coming out as a movie soon called Nuremberg, starring Russell Crowe in November, I believe. So.
Next recommendation for me is something I haven't seen yet because it's not out yet, but we got to start recommending more like, hey, don't forget about this thing, because with all the noise out there, sometimes the news doesn't always get through. The documentary on Amazon called I Like Me about John Candy, premiering
is that on already?
October 10th.
Oh, okay.
So 9 days from when we're recording this, it hits. I think it's going to be outrageously sentimental and emotional. It looks like you got all the big players in here: Steve Martin, Martin Short, all these guys and gals who have, been in film and stage with John Candy back in the day. And I really think we're going to get a kind of reminder of how much of a presence this guy was on film. I think he's kind of been like, I don't want to say hailed as like this comic genius, where I think that's inaccurate. I don't think the charm of him was that he was some comic genius. He was funny, of course. I think it was more like we could kind of like connect with him. I think he was one of those guys where, he lights up a screen just by kind of being himself. And I think we're going to get that message coming out of this documentary. But it hits Amazon October 10th, so very soon.
Hey, my wedding anniversary. Can't wait. All right, for my recommendation, I guess, if we're talking about things we don't want to be missing with all the craziness in the news, don't forget, folks, we have a great theater here, a little theater called The Little here in Rochester, and they've got some great showings coming out this month to kind of fit on theme for the spooky season. For instance, they are showing the original Halloween, Kronos, Silver Bullet, and The Howling double feature, Reanimator, and Army of Darkness, just to name a few things. They are just got a grant to update their seating and the entire thing from New York State. Nice. I'm very excited for them. I kind of wish I had more time to get out to support them more, but if you need something to do one of these nights and you're looking for something to do, check them out, see what they've got showing.
All right. My next recommendation is that, HBO, I think, is amazing in terms of the television they do. And every once in a while, I'll be drawn back to a series from the early days that really got me going, and I've decided to rewatch Deadwood. Deadwood is such a goddamn great show. Like, I am in awe at how great this show is. They call it Shakespeare in the mud. But for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's ran for 3 seasons, and then 13 years after the last season, they did a Deadwood movie to kind of cap things off. But it's 3 seasons and a movie, 36 episodes in total, and it's basically set in a fictionalized version of Deadwood, South Dakota, in 1876 is the first season, 1877 the second season, 1878 is the third season. But basically all the assorted cast of characters that were part of that time, Wild Bill Hickok, Seth Bullock, Al Swearingen. If you've never watched this show, it takes a little bit, Calamity Jane, it takes a little bit to get into like the rhythm of the wording, but once you get into it, it's fantastic show. It's grimy, it's gritty, it's funny, it's dark. I love it. And if you love Westerns, you'll like this too. So highly recommend Deadwood.
Can't go wrong with HBO. I thought you were going to say Dream On or like First and 10. Remember that one? Those are some old school HBO shows.
Yeah.
Those are pre-Cory K. I feel like both of those puppies.
Yeah, I haven't heard of either of them, so.
There you go. There's proof. I don't even think they were that great.
You heard of All in the Family?
In their time, they were interesting. Little show called MASH.
Yeah.
Next recommendation is, I guess, kind of a state of mind. So when I was watching, I won't recommend it again, but last time we did the pod, I recommended the show Task on HBO, where Mark Ruffalo plays the leader of a task force. He's like a former priest. Now he works for the feds. What's interesting is I was listening to another podcast, and in one of the episodes, Ruffalo meets with a friend and a former priest, or a priest who was, they were talking about spirituality and all this stuff and work. And the theologian Richard Rohr gets brought up. Did you hear about this?
I love Richard Rohr. He's great.
So what's interesting is I always assumed, and maybe it still is, that the show is called Task because it's a task force trying to hunt down these criminals, essentially. But this guy who called into the podcast talking about Task actually has a different theory. And his theory is that Richard Rohr was mentioned. Maybe the writers are kind of pointing to something else, because at some point, Richard Rohr talked about life being composed of 2 major tasks, where he said the first one is almost like you're building this identity, this container for the first half of your life, right? And then in the second half of your life, it's finding out what contents fill that container. Or another way to look at it is like, what's the meaning? How can I add that extra meaning to life? So I've been really kind of thinking about that a lot lately. So maybe that was like part of the, the play on words there. Who knows? I'm sure as the show goes on, we may learn a little bit more. Maybe just a coincidence. But either way, just something interesting to think about. That first half of your life, you're caught up in status and, marriage and what your job is and, the latest vacation that you post on Facebook. But what's that second half of life like, right? Like, what are you focused on? Where are you putting your efforts and your mindset? So something to contemplate.
All right. My next recommendation, of course, is going to be Sinners. Released earlier this year. So far, this is the best film I have seen this entire year. Not just released this year, but I would say throughout the entire year. And I am up to 256, 57 films that I have watched this year. Yes, I am closing in on finishing out my list of saying that I have watched and rated every single film I've ever seen. I have 43 or 44 left to go, and we're fine. Yeah, we're finishing it. Started in 2018, but going back to Sinners, this has stuck with me well after the credits have rolled. It's not just one of the best films I've seen this year. It is the best film released this year in 2025, and I would say it is the best horror film of the last 25 years. The themes it explores, the way it explores them, and then when those credits roll, I am just left there completely in awe and just dissecting so much because I feel so much emotion watching that film. I know it's coming back to IMAX sometime soon. If you have the opportunity to see it in theaters again, please, please, please spend the money, go and see it. You are not going to be disappointed.
Can't wait to rewatch it.
I think this one is going to go the distance and make it to Oscar time and get a boatload of nominations, which I wouldn't have said might not have been the case since it was released in April. But Corey, I can't think of a movie offhand recently where music as a concept, specifically blues music, was such a dynamic part of an entire film and actually flourished and made the film as dynamic as it was. So. My next recommendation is going to be the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I have been reading this since I was 12. I've reread it multiple times, and for whatever reason, I'm going back and rereading it yet again. It consists of 7 main books, a interquel book that is set between books 4 and 5, and there is also 3 omnibuses of Marvel comics that some of them like fill in backstory that's not in the novels, and some of them are like comic book novelizations of the books themselves. But Luke has said before, and we've talked about sometimes Stephen King could just turn a phrase, and I just have to read this little section from book 2 called The Drawing of the Three, which was, I just in awe that somebody could write this. He said, he watched the two of them, watched Eddie hug her, assure her it was going to be all right. He could not have done that, and now the ruin in his heart was joined by stealthy fear. If you have given up your heart for the tower, Roland, you have already lost. A heartless creature is a loveless creature, and a loveless creature is a beast. To be a beast is perhaps bearable, although the man who has become one will surely pay hell's own price in the end. But what if you should gain your object? What if you should, heartless, actually storm the dark tower and win it? If there is naught but darkness in your heart, what could you do except degenerate from beast to monster? To gain one object as a beast would only be bitterly comic, like giving a magnifying glass to an elephant. But to gain one's object as a monster, to pay hell is one thing, but do you really want to own it?
All right. To chase that very serious rec that Corey just gave, I'm going to recommend getting high and chewing on nerd clusters. They've got a great mouthfeel to them. It's legitimate.
What a pivot! I love it.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate recommend. Hey, for everyone watching, this is take place in New York State. It's legal here, baby. A friend who was staying with us at the beginning of the year turned me on to it. We were all just getting high, watching movies, and she was like, "You have to try nerd clusters." And I'm not really a candy person. I'm not really like a sweets kind of person. But when I am on THC, They got the best mouthfeel to them. It's just fantastic. So if you do those types of things, listeners, watchers, highly recommend.
I do got one more recommendation. Apparently, the term mouthfeel. I never use it. I just heard it 4 times from Cory K. Let's work that into the conversations this
One of
week.
the great contributions from the movie The Menu, for sure.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Be careful using that in the office, though.
Yeah.
If someone stops like, hey, Debbie, you've got a great mouthfeel. Whoa, hold on now.
All right. My next recommendation is actually a cleaning tip that I discovered that is so obvious in my face. I don't know why I didn't use it before, but I found it as a tip online. Is that I've started to collect 4K movies again, and what I found that is a lot. Even the 4Ks that I get, I have actually dedicated 4K Blu-ray player now. But even some of the 4Ks that I've been getting, there's been skipping issues and things with that. Turns out I found out, especially for 4K films, a lot of the times there is a film that's left over from when they print them out. But if you clean it with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and microfiber, it takes away the film and it'll stop the skipping. I've already had done that twice with 2 of my movies, and it was smooth sailing. Like, I got 28 years later, my steelbook, it was started to skip. I'm like, what the hell? So I did that, perfectly went away. Did that with another film, perfectly went away. So highly recommend that tip if you are a collector of those types of discs. I would recommend cleaning it probably every time that you go to put it in your Blu-ray player, just to be on the safe side.
All right, I got another one here. I recommended this last year when we covered that god-awful remake of Salem's Lot, but I am going to recommend this again. Netflix's miniseries Midnight Mass. It is the perfect season to binge one of the best miniseries to ever exist. Go ahead, do yourself a favor. If you've never heard of this, or if you have heard of it and you don't know what it's about, go in blind. Just understand it's horror, it's thriller. If you enjoy those, you're gonna enjoy this, and if you don't, I'm gonna have to question your mouthfeel on that one.
Yes.
I'm not giving anything away, but there is a speech by Rohit Kohli in this, who plays the local sheriff, who is a Muslim, about post 9/11 situations in New York City when he was joining up with the FBI and everything that came from that. That is one of the most eye-opening, holy shit speeches I have ever seen on any form of media, that just left my jaw on the ground. So even if you want to just go to the YouTube clip of that, it's something else to watch. So highly co-sign with Cory there. My final recommendation is, so here's the thing. My favorite movie on the year that I've seen, I'm in agreement with Cory K, which is Sinners. But maybe the best film of the year that's been released is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. I saw this in the theater in IMAX. Boy, they don't make them like this anymore, man. I hate to say that, but they just don't. It is action-packed. It's dramatic. It's a movie and an of our times. Amazing performances. Just some really black humor that I laughed loud at this more than I have some other films this year, to the point where I laughed and I looked around should I be laughing at this? Am I a bad person for laughing at some of those things? So it's very darkly comedic. We've never seen, I think, Leonardo DiCaprio do Terrified and Paranoid, and he just absolutely pulls this off. And it's a great father daughter story too. Sean Penn plays a character that you absolutely can't freaking stand. You hate him. And Chase Infinity, making, I believe, her film debut, although I think I've seen him in some other stuff, is just fantastic in this. It's 162 minutes, and it just flies by. From a cinematic standpoint, we talked about the technical aspects of Nosferatu today. Same thing you could say applies here. And I hated Licorice Pizza. And sometimes Paul Thomas Anderson is hit or miss for me. This is One Battle After Another is Paul Thomas Anderson's Oppenheimer. That's the
I heard it doesn't even feel like a Paul Thomas Anderson film.
It does have that flavor. Honestly, it does have that early flavor. It kind of has that combination of a Magnolia Boogie Nights, but with also a little bit of
energy.
There Will Be Blood. to it.
Yeah.
And the Johnny Greenwood score in this is chef's kiss. So highly recommend that one if you get a chance to see it. Don't know how well it's going to connect with like broader audiences, but this one's a banger. One at battle after another. I loved it. But I'm out of Rex.
Me too.
Cory K, it's good to see your face, hear your voice, and witness your beard in all its glory once again.
It's always great to be here, guys. I love sharing my beard with you. The talking of the films is, of course, just the cherry on top, but really the beard's the show. All right, let's be honest. But
It's almost as thick as Orlok's mustache.
almost. Hey, one day I'll get there. All right, they'll make a hair growth formula strong enough. But
Cory Cook.
Folks,
Always bring this guy back. Never hesitate.
You got it.
thank you.
Next up on the pod, Bruce.
That's right. Purchased our tickets today. Luke and I will be going to see on the 23rd Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, biopic based off of Springsteen trying his efforts to make the album Nebraska, which came out just before Born in the USA. So looking forward to that one. We'll be watching that one, and then a week after that, be doing a podcast on that later this month.
Another Cory sandwich comes to an end. Cory Cook, Cory K, Luke Mayo signing off. We will see you rascals and asshats next time.
And remember, kids, all movie experiences are subjective. Your mileage may vary.